Hey, so I know this isn't another board game review, but I wanted to provide you guys with some content for this week while I work on the newest commission. The son in particular that I'm pulling with the newest commission has taken up so much of my time, and I know that I can't rush it or else it's not going to turn out the way I want to, so I want to provide you guys with this video. Hopefully this exposes you to different board games that you've probably never heard of, things you might want to check out, or, want me to review. So number 10 is Hidden Movement. Hidden Movement games are games like Letters from Whitechapel and Spectrums. I like the idea of 1v3 games, but it reminds me of the ridiculously unbalanced Mario Party minigames. Sadly, this is how a lot of these games turn out. Letters from Whitechapel is a game where one person plays as Jack the Ripper, and each night they have to murder an NPC and try and make it back to their lair without getting caught. While Whitechapel is the most popular Hidden Movement game, it's probably also the most balanced. Every other Hidden Movement game that I've played is horribly lopsided, and that's kind of what prevents me from coming back to them. The Aftermath is also kind of horseshit because either the one player is going to feel really good that they outsmarted everybody else, or they're going to feel left out because they're the only person in the group who didn't win. Number 9, we have card games like Gloom and Sushi Go and Tichu. So card games usually have the most unique mechanics. You can slap any theme you want onto a card game and it's probably going to work. This is a double-edged sword though. I haven't seen a card game that takes more than 10 minutes to teach somebody, so while it's a very good thing for accessibility and replayability and popularity, it's nothing else. They can't get too complex, they can't get crazy. You can do some really cool things. I love the idea of Gloom where you have these transparent cards that you're just stacking, or Sushi Go where it's a pick and pass. It's really nice. There are so many different mechanics that can just be slapped on card games, and they're really cool. But because they can only get so complicated, and they're usually pretty shallow, that's why it gets the number 9 spot. Okay, number 8 is drafting games. Now this is kind of like Splendor, Ticket to Ride, Azul, Sagrada. This is another one of those genres that takes a lot of different forms. I can definitely see people arguing about the existence of this genre and further breaking down the games that I mentioned, like, oh, Splendor is a set collection game, or Ticket to Ride is also a set collection game and a land control game because you're blocking other players out, unless you're playing Ticket to Ride Europe. And that Sagrada is just a modified roll and write, but the only thing that ties all these games together is the fact that you're drafting from what's available and interacting with everybody around you. That is just a mechanic that drives all of these games together, but it's not very solid, and again, you could argue it's more of a mechanic, so that's only getting number 8 on the list. Number 7, team games like Captain Sonar and Codenames. Codenames is the one that everyone who's ever browsed the board game section of Target can recognize. Codenames has a lot of really goofy spin-offs like Disney, NSFW, and pictures instead of words. These games are all fine and all right, but the game that really saves this genre for me is Captain Sonar. I believe this is the best team game ever made. Pre-Rona, it was my go-to party game. Best with 6 people, goes up to 8. Everyone has a job. The dynamics are just wild based on where you seat people. Not gonna lie, this really only made the list because of Captain Sonar. Having teams face off is a really cool dynamic, crippled by the fact that you need to have friends. Number 6, social deception games, like Love Letter, Citadels, One Night Werewolf, Mafia, Town of Salem, Campy Creatures, Secret Hitler, Avalon, and for you real gamers out there, Among Us. I'm fine with that. Honestly, I'm probably going to do a top 5 or a top 10 list of social deception games at some point, so look forward to that. Avalon is what really brought me into playing board games. When I stayed up all night at Smash the Record 2016 in Orlando, playing with Tones Ballones, Purple Ghost Casper, Johanian, Fern, my friend Alex, and 360 Chrism. Absolutely wild time.
I messed up so bad!
Yeah! Sadly though, I got seriously burnt out from these kinds of games, so much so that even Among Us, which is a game that I'm streaming quite frequently nowadays, is just, it's whatever. I like spending time with my friends. I don't really care what we do, and that's pretty much what Among Us is for me right now. Not to brag, but I also metagame my friends so hard and practically bully them so that I'm either killed or voted off first in any social deception game. The only thing that really changes between these games is the traitor dynamics and how you get around being the traitor, not how people play, and that's the part that kind of got stale for me. So yeah, social deception games, number 6. Number 5 is Lovecraftian games. I mean this in a cosmic horror kind of genre. This is, again, more of a theme than a genre, which is why it's only placing number 5. But this has games like Betrayal at House on the Hill, Mansions of Madness, Mythos Tales, Arkham Horror. Again, it's mostly a theme, not a genre, but the games usually revolve around all the same mechanics or enemies, stuff like that. Betrayals and Mansions of Madness are really similar. Mythos Tales is just kind of its own thing that I really enjoyed. I might make a video about that, I don't know. Cosmic horror games provide the most diversity in ratings. I could name 5 off the top of my head, and they would all have vastly different scores. I never say no to a Lovecraftian themed game, which is why it's its own genre and on the list. Number 4, legacy games. This is Pandemic, Gloomhaven, even by some extent D&D. Legacy games are where you and your friends have to meet up multiple times to complete a campaign or an objective, with Gloomhaven and Pandemic Legacy Season 1 being the number 1 and number 2 board game on Board Game Geek since they've been released. Just, it's gotta make the list, right? The reason why it's number 4, though, is because legacy games are usually really weird, kind of lackluster, really heavily focused on theme rather than mechanics, and all suffer from a very big problem. Like team games, you need friends to meet up with in person regularly enough so that you all remember the rules and what's going on. The difficulty in these games comes simply from understanding the rules, not how difficult it is to actually execute things. The other issues with these games is that balance is kind of thrown out of the window. It doesn't really matter. You don't need a lot of playtesting to do a legacy game because you're just doing a campaign. If players don't understand a rule or if it's not very clear, they just make up a house rule. How many times have you played Monopoly? I guarantee you're not playing it right. Not that Monopoly is a legacy game. Monopoly Legacy sounds crazy as hell. It could be for how long it takes sometimes, but a lot of playtesting doesn't need to go into these to make them good. And while that's a good thing, it's also kind of bad. In legacy games, the goal is to get through it, so making it needlessly hard or artificially difficult really means nothing. There's no benefit to making one of these games kind of difficult. However, legacy games are some of the best games ever made, so it gets the number 4 spot on the list. Number 3, co-op games. This is your Pandemic, your Spirit Island, and your Oregon Trail card game. Notice that I said card game, yes, but the theme is so overwhelming that it can't really be a card game because it's not a standard thing. I mean, just look at it. These games have a very similar problem to legacy games, except they're the exact opposite, and they're supposed to be really difficult. Spirit Island is the most difficult board game that I own in terms of comprehension and execution. My win rate on Pandemic is like probably 1 in 4. My win rate on Oregon Trail is probably like a 1 in 5 or a 1 in 6. These leave a really bad taste in my mouth because whenever we lose, everyone feels that we've lost 45 minutes to an hour of our life. No one's really content with what happened. However, in the off chance that you win, it is definitely one of the most rewarding board game experiences out there. To just clobber some of these bullshit mechanics that exist in some of these games is just very satisfying. Like in Oregon Trail, getting a supply card and getting an antidote in case you come across a snake instead of oxen, which you need, and then immediately getting bit by a snake. Being able to overcome the kind of randomness or stuff that the game stacks against you, it's just really rewarding. Not that you've bested the other players in the group, but that you've bested the board game designers. These games are constant anxiety in that one unfortunate decision, whether or not you know it's a bad idea, could end the game for everybody. But I can tell you that these are very fun, and I've had a great time playing these kinds of games, providing that you win. Number 2 is deck building games like Puzzle Strike, Clank, and Codex. Keep in mind that I'm not talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering. Spending tens of thousands on a viable deck in some of those games are just the biggest money sink, financial black hole besides the stock market. What I'm talking about here when I say deck building games are games that have everything in the box upon opening them. These games clearly have a lot of time and effort and love put into them, and it shows in the balancing of all the different chips and cards. Of course, you're gonna get stuff that's horribly designed or stuff that's even just a joke, like Puzzle Strike's golden puzzle chip, which basically lets you end the game as soon as you get it, providing that you can afford it and it's in play. It's definitely one of the haha funny things you can just opt out of. I've played countless games of Puzzle Strike, Clank, etc. And it's something that, with the diversity, I never get tired of it. Everything has a counter in these games. Trying out new strategies, even if you lose, it's refreshing to know that there are other options out there. They may not be the best, but it's something. The biggest issue with these games is about once around, you will feel absolutely cheated by the pull that you get. You'll eventually collect all of these amazing cards or chips or tokens or whatever, and you'll just pull the right thing, but at the wrong time. The feeling of playing well and then losing to a bad hand is absolutely shitty, and that's why this isn't number 1 on the list. And the number 1 game, the game genre of the year every year. Peggle, baby. Any game that has pegging in it is the best game. I could spend weeks at a time pegging, non-stop. My life is entirely centered around pegging, so much so that I don't even consider it a game. Since I can't count Peggle as the best game genre of all time, I guess I'll let engine building games be the number 1 spot for this list. I've already done reviews on Wingspan and Scythe, which are the 2 best engine building games of all time. Resource management in the remnants of a post-World War I alternate timeline. Each faction worker on their knees, waiting for some brine. Scythe gameplay really rocks. If you want to know why I like them so much, please go ahead and go check them out. One that I haven't done a review on yet, is Terraforming Mars. I recently purchased it, as well as acquired some of the expansions. Someone please commission me using the Ko-fi link, and I'll tell you my thoughts on the 4th best board game of all time, according to Board Game Geek. That may be it for the list, and I know it looks like I didn't post a video last week, but I was actually commissioned by Luigi Toilet to make a melee combo video for him. I'll post a link to it down in the description down below. There are actually 2 videos. There's one that he put out on Twitter that we couldn't put on YouTube for copyright reasons, and the other one is available on YouTube. If you like the Smash content that I made, and you want me to put that kind of stuff back on this channel, just let me know. Now that I've gotten better at editing, I'm definitely open to the possibility of making combo videos or just having a good time. We've kind of shied away from the fighting games and stuff like that, videos wise, but definitely not playing wise. We're playing more games now than ever in the Discord, so if you're not in that, there will be a link in the description as well to that. Yeah, so just come join us and have a great time. Thanks, and I'll see you beans in the next one.